Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Belay my last. Mr. Thomas, if you would provide the report, please, sir.
General fund payables requiring council approval, $525,979.49. Street improvement fund payables requiring council approval, $129.07. Fire fund payables requiring council approval, $21,086.97. Capital improvement fund payables requiring council approval, $66,941.78. Flood mitigation fund payables requiring council approval, $73,095.04. EMS fund payables requiring council approval, $193,351.98. 2019 bond fund payables requiring council approval, $1,641,995.69. Purchasing card direct vendor payments, Westmoreland Sanitary Landfill, $166,874.35, for total payables to be approved of $2,689,454.37.
Thank you, sir. Having received a motion and a second, would you vote to approve the expenses for the month of August? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the August 9th council meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pastor.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recognition of achievements in the community. Mayor Slagle.
I have none this month.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Moving on our agenda with civic announcements.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to remind everyone that September is Love Your Library Month. On September 4th, we held a fall book sale outdoors at the library, and it was a great event, and we had a great turnout. We still have basket raffles going on until Wednesday at the library, so you can enter to win great prizes, such as lottery tickets. We have a Starbucks basket, a Steeler basket, something for everyone. And tickets can be purchased at the library or on our website. And in September, all donations to the library are eligible to receive funds from a match pool, thanks to the Jack Buncher Foundation. So donations in September go a little bit further. Also, this month, we'll be starting some indoor programs for adults, including movies, Knit for a Cause, book club, and much more. And we'll be holding children and teen programs outside for September and until as much as October of a Pittsburgh October will let us. We will have Lego Club, books and blocks, and plenty more, and everything is available on our website. And we ask that you please register. We're trying to keep some numbers down. And just give us a call at the library if you have more questions or stop in. And we are back to our regular hours. We had reduced them for a while during COVID, and while COVID is still happening, we are able to go back to our normal full hour. So Monday through Thursday, 10 to 8, and Friday and Saturday, 10 to 5. So we appreciate everyone's patience as we navigated everything, but we're back. So thank you all.
Good.
Thank
Glad
you.
to have you back, too.
Any other civic announcements? Yes, ma'am.
Public safety, civic announcements, something like that. I'm Anita from Renton Volunteer Fire Department. Most of you know me. I'm the president. I just wanted to give you some stats and some updates on our department. Our year-to-date calls are 380, 212 being fire, and 168 being QRS. For the month of August, we had 58 calls, 38 of them fire, 20 QRS. The top 3 calls in August were automatic fire alarms, followed by moving vehicle accidents. Third is fire of different natures. This month, the members of Plum Fire Departments, along with other companies from the state, conducted a man versus machine training. It was a 2-day training focused on people trapped in machines and techniques to safely remove them from entrapment. It was an excellent training. The attendees took lessons learned and trained other members of their department, and I participated in Renton's. The gentleman who went to the training brought back to us, and they actually set up rebar. It was a construction accident, had the dummy on the rebar, impaled, and showed different ways of how not to get him off of there safely, how to get him off of there. They demonstrated the different, if you used a certain saw, it would damage him further, it would injure him further, and what type of saw you end up using, a bandsaw. So I learned a lot. Everybody learned just the different things. I mean, not everybody who's in the fire service knows construction, so they wouldn't have known which saw to go for first. So it was a learning experience. Everybody had to quickly put their minds together because time is of the essence. You've got someone on rebar and how to get them out of there. So it was very interesting, very informative. Unfortunately, we had to cancel our bingo that we had for October 2nd. We felt that having over 200 people in our building would be too close quarters with the COVID numbers. Unfortunately, that's going to lose between $7,000 and $8,000 of profit for our department that we kind of counted on. But there's nothing else we can do. We're going to try to hold a tool bash or a purse bash ticket where we just sell it virtually. We did that last year. We were able to make up a little bit of money. You don't make up as much because what you make is when people show up and you sell them tickets and walk-arounds and Chinese auctions, where you don't have that if you sell the tickets outright. But we're going to give it a shot because, as you know, we're all suffering and need to make a little bit of money. Again, thank you all for your support.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thanks, Anita.
Thank
What's
you.
the, what'd you say, a bandsaw is the best saw?
Bandsaw, yes. And I got to use it.
Do we have bandsaws here in Plum on our trucks?
We do. Some companies do, some companies don't.
Yeah,
So, but, it doesn't have the vibration.
right,
So
like
you're
a
able to
chop
get
saw
through
would
the-
have, right.
Right, right. And, the other saws with the sparks and everything, and you're going
Right.
to cause more damage. So it was very interesting. And that was just one scenario. We're going to do a couple more.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because you don't know what can happen when.
No.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other civic announcements? Okay, moving on to the president's comments. I do have a number of items that I'd like to discuss tonight. The first one has to do with an executive session that occurred on August 24th. Council received an email on August 18th from Plum School Board President, who contacted members of council, the mayor, and the borough staff to express concerns over the public disclosure of the home addresses of all 9 board members and members of the Plum School District Administration. The privacy information of those individuals was posted to social media by Councilman Pastor with a request for residents in Plum to join him in protests outside the residence of board members and school district administrators. The members of council denounced the actions by Councilman Pastor and expressed our opinion that his actions are not becoming of an elected official of the borough of Plum. We do respect Mr. Pastor's right to free speech as afforded to him by the Constitution, but do not believe it gives him the right to take actions that have the potential to threaten the safety and well-being of those that were negatively impacted by the release of their personal information. One of the items that we're actually doing, not just in response to the issue that I just discussed, but more related to the irresponsible use of social media. We believe that it's becoming a problem, and we're very concerned that this could potentially extend to individuals who are, responsible for protecting and serving people in our community. If it was something that happened with respect to our police officers, members of borough staff, or other residents. And so in response to that tonight, we're going to be voting on a doxing resolution. For those of you who may not be familiar with doxing, it's the intentional dissemination of information that would allow an individual to be located, contacted, harassed, threatened, or harmed. So essentially, the resolution denounces the practice of doxing or any intentional or malicious dissemination of privacy information on any resident in Plum. And so we will be voting on that this evening. Another item that I'd like to discuss this evening has to do with the Malabar Road closure. So I know many of you are obviously familiar with that particular area. We understand how it's been a problem for that road being closed. Just to give you a little historical context on the Malabar project, that bridge was closed by PennDOT in October of 2020 due to damage to the foundation supports. We worked for months with the various state agencies in order to get the appropriate approvals and permits. Those were received from the state in June of this year, and then we went through the appropriate design and bidding process, and those bids were advertised in the month of July. They were accepted in August and were awarded at a public meeting that took place on August 9th. On August 19th, during a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, we were made aware of material delivery delays as a result of the pandemic, which is something that we're seeing across multiple industries, especially related to delivery of steel infrastructure, which the final completion of the project is dependent upon. So unfortunately, this project is going to be delayed. This isn't anything any of us want. We wanted this thing to be open in October, but these are circumstances that are certainly out of our control. But we're going to be working with our contractor, and as soon as we can get the project started and obviously completed, we will work to do that with as much expediency as we can. So we just wanted to give you an update on the Malabar project. I get a lot of calls, and I know the other councilman and the mayor also receive a lot of questions about Malabar. So I wanted to make sure that we address that this evening. The other item that I wanted to discuss for President's comments has to do with the animal husbandry ordinance. We had some individuals who came in last month to talk about potentially changing the ability for residents to have chickens on their property. And so we discussed that in the work session last Wednesday, and staff is actually going to be working to revise that ordinance, and we'll present that to council at next month's work session. So just to give you an update on that particular item. And then the last item I have for President's comments is that the next Stormwater Task Force meeting will be held September 23rd. We are working to get the public meeting video posted to our website. We had some technical difficulties, and we lost a staff member recently, but we are working to get that information posted for those of you who weren't able to attend, and hopefully we'll be able to get that done before the end of the month. That's all I have for President's comments, so we will now move on to citizen comments on agenda items.
We have no one signed up.
So we had no one sign up, so we'll move on to council actions. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, Mr. Vento.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. On behalf of the Planning and Economic Development Committee, I move to deny the request to dedicate the infrastructure in the Autumn Ridge housing development.
Motion by Mr. Vento.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Vento. On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, Mr. Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Personnel and Management Committee, I move to adopt Resolution Number 910-21 denouncing the intentional dissemination of personal information.
Motion by Mr. Hadley.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. On behalf of the Public Safety Committee, Mr. Dern.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. First thing I have is I would like to move to appoint Greg Fusco as the Assistant Emergency Management Coordinator.
Motion by Mr. Dern.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move to adopt the Borough Department of Public Works procedures for emergency call-outs by third parties.
Motion by Mr. Dern.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I move to approve a 2-year agreement with Hoffman Kennels for 2022 through 2023.
Motion by Mr. Dern.
Second.
Second by Mr. Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
We have one nay.
Roll call, please.
Roll call.
On the motion to appoint Hoffman Kennels for the 2-year agreement for the years 2022 and 2023, Mr. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Hadley,
Yes.
Mr. Odom,
Yes.
Mr. Pastor,
Yes.
Mr. Vento,
Yes.
Mr. Delaney.
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One last one. I move to request a Pennsylvania Department of Transportation traffic study at the intersection of Kerr Road and Route 909 for the purpose of determining if additional traffic control devices are warranted.
Motion by Mr. Dern.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. That concludes my motions.
Thank you, Mr. Dern. On behalf of the Parks and Recreation Committee, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of Parks and Rec, I move to authorize the purchase and installation of publicly accessible AED at all borough park facilities.
Motion by Mr. Delaney,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. On behalf of the Finance Committee, Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Finance Committee, I move to adopt Resolution Number 909-21, setting the 2002 MMO.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move to enact Ordinance Number 957-21, authorizing the borough to incur lease rental debt in an amount not to exceed $15,350,000 by guaranteeing up to $6,850,000 aggregate principal amount of the guaranteed water revenue bonds, Series A of 2021, and by guaranteeing up to $8.5 million aggregate principal amount of the guaranteed sewer revenues bond, Series B of 2021.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, I move to accept the audio-visual system proposal number HISQ 12759-E from Horizon Information Services, Inc. to the borough, for the new borough facility.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That is the end of my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. And on behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, Mr. Pastor.
Thanks, Mr. Odom. On behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, I move to award the contract for the Center New Texas Culvert to Pugliano Construction for the bid price of $87,777.77.
Motion by Mr. Pastor,
Second.
second by Mr. Hadley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of the committee, I move to approve a commercial concession kitchen sublease for the Plum Community Center with Sugar Mama's Sweets and Eats.
I'll
Motion-
second.
Motion by Mr. Hadley, second by Mr. Vento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion by Mr. Pastor.
Oh, motion by Mr. Pastor, I apologize. Second by Mr. Vento?
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you, gentlemen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I heard sweets and eats, and I started getting hungry.
All right, one more. On behalf of the committee, I move to approve Resolution 909-21 for the Verizon right-of-way agreement.
Motion by Mr. Pastor,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Dern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Pastor. And that concludes council actions. Moving on with our agenda, the mayor's report. Mayor Slagle.
Thank you, and I missed one opportunity, and that was on civic achievements within the community. We had a major soccer tournament here, 230 teams this year. Each year they get bigger and bigger. That is the largest youth soccer tournament certainly in western Pennsylvania. I'm trying to determine if there's anyone bigger in the eastern half of the state. 230 teams. That brings a lot of people in here, a lot of money for the surrounding communities as well as ourselves. But it showcases Plum. And all I can say is thank you, all the participants, and more importantly, all the volunteers, the parents. There were people up there that haven't had any kids playing soccer for years, yet they still show up. The fire departments were there to provide services if needed. Thank God there weren't any. But again, just another major feather in our cap. This is just the 23rd year. Each year it gets larger and larger, 230 teams. Now, to the police report. 928 calls, that's about average for us now. One thing I want to mention, our police officers, on August 21st, Officer Eric Brandt, one of our new police officers, was stopped by a pizza delivery man from Penn Hills, indicating that there was a house on fire. Officer Brandt responded and went into the flaming structure, found the owner, the occupant, Mr. Gagg. I guess he was finding difficulty to breathe in the smoke laying in the hallway. Officer Brandt started to drag him out, and the gentleman that stopped him, the pizza delivery person, who we're going to recognize next month, I'll mispronounce the name, Maksud Hodeyev, came into the structure and assisted Officer Brandt in pulling Mr. Gagg out of the building. He is out of the hospital and doing fine. Matter of fact, I'm hoping he is here next week to be recognized and show his appreciation to the officers and those individuals. Now we get down to the ATS radar display. We're coming to the end of the season where we put that out. But in the month of August, on Trestle Road averages 222 vehicles a day. And of course, some idiot has to do 58 mile an hour in a 25 mile an hour zone. The same one, again, Sheer Road. Another idiot did 70 mile an hour on a half-mile road. And the average vehicles per day on that half mile is 4,961. And for some dummy to come up that road at 70 mile an hour, I just don't know. On New Texas Road, in front of the 3998, 1,872 vehicles, highest speed 59 mile an hour. Mr. Odom and myself had the pleasure of going up to Macy's on a Saturday for the Shop with a Cop. And there were representatives from all the departments on the eastern side of Allegheny County. And of course, Plum was represented there. Each child was with an officer, and they had $250 to spend on clothing, whatever. Macy's really stepped up, and it couldn't be possible without them, so I want to thank them. They're the ones that opened the store early, had people in there, gave good prices on the clothing that the kids got. It was a good time, although some of our younger single officers were a bit out of their element with walking around with a little girl. They have no clue about what kind of dress she wants or anything, but everybody survived it, let's put it that way. And that was a great event. The other thing that I go through is this community constantly amazes me on how much they care about our police officers and our emergency people. Mark Reed, again, provided hoagies and pasta salad from the Triangle Bar for the midnight shift this time. The midnight shift normally gets cheated because there's nothing left if they bring it in during the day. So he continues to show his appreciation to the Plum officers. Wendy's, the manager, Lee Coghill, brought in breakfast sandwiches for the daylight shift. Michael Cerniglia, again, of Michael's Painting, provided Dunkin' Donuts and muffins to the officers. James Osselburn of Plum had pizzas delivered to the daylight and afternoon shifts in recognition of the police department. And just as an aside, Mr. Osselburn's grandfather was a Penn Hills police officer. Tony Veltri of Veltri's Pizza and Catering provided Officer Jake Polonsky with 4 gift certificates for pizzas for each of the 3 patrol crews and administration staff. Susan Mullinex thanked Sergeant DeMaria and Patrolman Snyder Lockman, Patrolman Brandt, and Plum EMS personnel for all their kindness and for going above and beyond and caring for her during their response to a 2-vehicle crash on Greensburg Road. And we had a gentleman showed up. I can't tell you the number of pizzas. I think at least 10 or 12 pizzas were delivered here, and he wanted to remain anonymous. So on behalf of the police department and myself and this council, we want to thank that individual, whoever he may be. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Moving on to our committee reports. The Intergovernmental Cooperative Committee with the Plum School District. I have not received any communication from the school board other than the email that we discussed earlier in the meeting this evening. So we will move on with the Finance Committee. Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. The Finance Committee report for September 13, 2021. General fund highlights for the month of August. The borough recognized revenues totaling $2,494,835 and incurred expenditures in the amount of $1,256,124. Regarding those revenues, to date, we have received $1,968,358 in current year real estate tax revenues, and this represents 46% of the adopted budget. During the month of August, the borough received $141,092 under cable TV franchise fees, and we currently are at 74% of that budget. A total of $68,578 was received against the Regional Asset District revenue line and ended August at 76% of the budget. Overall revenues continue to trend slightly over budget. Regarding the expenditures through the month of August, the borough has expended 64% of the budget, which translates to $8.75 million. From the departmental standpoint, we have no current budget concerns, and expenditures are tracking as expected. The Finance Director, Mr. Whitico, has kicked off the 2022 budgeting process, met with department heads, and discussed the timeline through budget adoption. The Finance Committee will review the preliminary budget during the month of October in preparations and presentation for the November 1st council session. End my report.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. On behalf of the Roads, Equipment, and Grounds Committee, Mr. Pastor.
Thanks, Mr. Odom. Project updates for the month of August include the paving contractor has completed the paving project, and there's a short punch list of issues that need to be resolved still. The contractor for the Holiday Park Stormwater project has started, and they anticipate it being done by the end of September. The Center New Texas Culvert project only received one bid, and that was Pugliano Construction. The Malabar Culvert project will be delayed until January due to the lead time of the steel culvert. Road maintenance updates for last month are: we have completed inlet repairs to the following streets: Garlow Boulevard, Balkan Drive, Carriage Boulevard, and Route 909. We replaced failing pipe on New Texas Road that created a sinkhole. We replaced 500 feet of 15-inch pipe and 4 inlets and grates at O-Block Avenue. There's been extensive tree trimming done along the right-of-ways on Logan's Ferry, in Logan's Ferry area, Abers Creek Road and Clements Road and Finley Road. We've completed the work on Logan Ferry Playground and ordered new bricks for the memorial. We increased the size of the dump site at Larry Mills Park. This involved tree removal, topsoil removal, and extensive grading work. We're continuing working on the MS4 inspections, and we started work on some of our retention ponds and bioretention areas that were called out in our pond inspections. This is an ongoing area of work for the department. We've ordered street signs with a new logo for different areas, and we've been doing roadside vegetation mowing, as well as milling has begun and asphalt patching in a number of locations. We installed 116 tons of asphalt and have had a total of 19 and a quarter hours of overtime. And a report.
Thank you, Mr. Pastor. On behalf of the Public Safety Committee, Mr. Dern.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. Mr. Maloney, if you care to come up and give the EMS report for the month, please.
Thank you. Brian Maloney, Director of Operations, Plum EMS. I always appreciate the opportunity to stand up here. August was an extremely busy month for us. We're in it from working on the turnpike with a tanker truck over a hillside with carrying liquid nitrogen to crews assisting in the delivery of a baby. It was a heck of a month. Very busy. We ran over 246 responses, transported 155 patients. We still ended up in neighboring communities 35 times, with 31 of those resulting with a transport to the hospital. But because we were so busy, we needed the most help coming into Plum that we've had over 3 years. We actually had to have mutual aid into Plum 17 times, which was about 17.7% of times EMS was needed in Plum. But the crews continued to work hard, and we certainly did have a busy month. With that, we also had our annual car seat safety check. And we've actually hit this one out of the park. We loved it. The way I could describe it was nothing short of amazing. Typically, the most car seat checks we've ever done during one of these clinics was 17. This time we did 26. And each one of those checks takes approximately 30 minutes. So you imagine the amount of work that goes into this. And there were so many different agencies that really chipped in to help make this happen, starting with Plum Boro, helping us with advertising, Plum Police, Holiday Park Volunteer Fire Department for hosting it, Allegheny County Police were a part of it, Allegheny Department of Health, PennDOT, American Academy of Pediatrics. We also had representatives from North Huntington EMS assisting us, and UPMC Children's Hospital Family Care Connection. This is what it took to put all this together. We ended up giving away one free car seat to a family who needed it. And from that, there were actually 3 families that missed it that already had scheduled, and we did their check at the station. So I can't speak enough for everyone really stepping up and going above and beyond, so thank you. And also, this past weekend, let me tell you, between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we want to thank everybody for their support and recognition of the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Started with the high school on Friday night, which they recognized first responders and veterans. On Saturday, up at the American Legion Post 980, they did an incredible 20th anniversary ceremony. It brought tears to my eyes. It was a heck of a ceremony. Then on Sunday, the Holy Family Parish, Our Lady of Joy, did their annual recognition of first responders, followed by a reception. Once again, getting a standing ovation from the people there. It meant a lot. It's normal people who have husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, children, grandchildren, that are out there every day helping people. And they're the ones, as with the fire departments and the police, going somewhere where everyone else is running away. So it was a heck of an experience. Now we are working, or actually we're going to be doing the Fall Fest. Plum EMS will be out there, and I just found out today we will be securing seasonal flu vaccines. That is seasonal flu vaccines that we're going to be able to provide as well. Plus we'll hold another seasonal flu vaccine clinic in October. They are free of charge. You just have to be 18 or older. So, questions, comments, stories to help make me smile. What do you got for me?
I have one question. Do you know, last year the seniors were given a little extra flu shot? You know, it was a little special. Do you have those available?
We do not.
Okay.
Yeah, we work with AHN Forbes Hospital, who provides these flu vaccines to us for free to help get them out in the community. And so this is kind of like what we work with what we got.
Okay, I guess I'm stuck going to the doctor's office then. Okay.
Yeah, so I couldn't help you out
Well,
there.
it's good information to get out too, so people aren't coming, they can't get the shot they need, so, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. That concludes my report, Mr. Odom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dern. Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Vento.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. The financial summary for the month of August, there were 90 permits issued and $20,375.50 in revenue. The Planning Commission did not meet in August. The Zoning Hearing Board met on August 18th and reviewed the following applications. One was a request by the owners of 364 and 366 Coxcomb Hill Road for 4 variances to the area and bulk regulations related to the proposed 2-lot subdivision. The owners didn't show for the hearing. The Zoning Hearing Board continued the hearing until September. Also, a request from the Renton Real Estate LLC, owner of 1280 Renton Road, for a single-family residential. The request was for special use exception for the expansion of a non-conforming use for the construction of a commercial sign. The Zoning Hearing Board did grant the request for that commercial sign. There are too many meetings and conferences to even mention. I don't even know what most of them were for, so there's no sense bothering the public with them. When they get to be more than just meetings, we'll hear about them, I'm sure. Code enforcement issues. There was 76 occupancy inspections, 23 complaints addressed, including abandoned vehicles, junk and debris, high grass and weeds, open burning, and stormwater damage. Fire calls. There was one on Hialeah, was a tree into a house. 2 on, the second one was 304 Boyce Park Drive. residential fire, and 4747 Havana Drive, a fire call. Miscellaneous. There again, there was a lot of miscellaneous. Most of them aren't worth mentioning, so I won't. Grant issues. We are working with the Turtle Creek Valley COG on a CDBG application, pre-application for demolition funds. I think we mentioned these last month. They're being offered for the communities in the Turtle Creek COGS area, probably other areas too, but pertaining to us that we get every year we demolish so many homes, and we pay for that on ourselves normally. Now there's money available through CDBG, and for it's going to be for a long time. It's funding available for communities to tear down homes as long as they do them in a grouping, more than one. I think it's 4 or 5 initially.
We've applied for 5.
Okay,
for
I think
this
it's
round,
4 or
yes.
5 minimum. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's a great thing, and I'm glad we're getting a chance to. I don't know if they're going to pay for all of it, or it depends on the money, right?
I mean, they will pay for probably 2/3 of what's there. So
Better than us paying for it all, that's
yeah,
for sure.
We have 4 slated for this year. The funds, if available, will be available next year. So maybe we can do 9 next year.
Terrific, awesome.
You know, we have over 100 vacant structures. Not all of them are structurally deficient, but the ones that are, we go through the process to demolish them when we can.
I'd love some year to get money set aside for it and not have to use it. You know,
Don't we all?
We're doing
Yes.
it for something else. So, thank you for that. And also, notices received. There's the notices come into to the community a lot of times about projects and inadequacies that are done usually by the Allegheny County Conservation District.
Yes.
And,
So
so Mr. Odom can speak on it. That way you'll get the right information, not from me. So go ahead, Dave.
yeah. So
Mr. Sabosley.
Sabosley, yes. Yeah. So as we talked, Dave, yeah, in the monthly report every month we list notices we receive from the Conservation District as well as DEP. These include notices of intent, incompleteness reviews, earth disturbance reports, municipal notification. If you look in this month, there were 13 different notifications. These used to arrive in the mail. Since COVID started, we get them by email. But, you know, the St. John's parking lot expansion, you know, there were inspections by the Conservation District. Black Hills Road, there was an ENS plan submitted that was inadequate. Farneth Road, there was some dumping that we caught up there, inspection by the Conservation District. P&G Center, New Texas Road gas line replacement, an acknowledgement letter. So these are general letters that we receive that talk about projects that are ongoing, whether they're applications, notice of termination of permits, inadequacies. So it helps us keep an eye on what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Sabosley. And just so public knows, we had a economic development meeting this month, and a lot of the time was spent talking about people that are doing illegal dumping or dumping without permits. Let's not call it illegal as per se, but you're not supposed to do that. You're not allowed to, just because you own property, dump whatever you think might be considered clean fill on your property, because oftentimes all of it isn't. So when it's brought to our attention, we have to react. And when we do, that's usually going to cost somebody money that's not the borough. So please, in the future, come to the borough for a grading permit for dumping or filling. So you can not possibly get those costs before they happen to you. I know a lot of people don't do it on purpose. They think they're doing a good thing. They're filling a hole in it nobody cares about anyway. Well, that's not often the case. So, and a lot of times when we get these heavy rains, the stuff comes from those dumps and it goes down into our storm sewer system and clogs it up. So being a victim of clogged up storm sewer systems occasionally myself, I know how important it is. So please, everybody that's doing this illegally, stop down to the borough building, talk to Mr. Sabosley. He'll work something out with you and we can get you back on the right track. So we also discussed Mr. Sabosley shared with us. It's an artist's drawing. Well, actually, it looks like a picture. It's really nicely done. And it's about the proposed development here at the Borough Building site after we take occupancy of the new Borough Building. And in this proposed, now this is just one idea. This isn't necessarily the final. I just wanted to bring it to people to let them see what we're looking at. It's a beautiful plan. I hope something like this does come to fruition. And I've been told that there are a couple developers looking strongly at this site. So hopefully we can get something generated here in the near future. And in this particular one, it's a total of 54,500 square foot of buildings. And that would consist of a fresh food market. The size is based on a Giant Eagle Market District Express. If you've seen the one over in Harmerville, that'll be the size we're proposing of that particular store. Another one is a gas station and a car wash, which is very nice. I'm going to show this to the cameramen. Hopefully they can get a zoom in on me here pretty soon. Sorry I didn't give you advance notice. Also a restaurant, boutique shops, which could be anything from ice cream, coffee and donuts, inline banks, Verizon store, candy and sweets, that size stores in this one little strip part. And at the very end of the property, down at the very end of our property where they used to store mulch and stuff when the Borough Public Works was over here, it'll be a food hall or a bigger restaurant or possibly a brew pub. So this is stuff that the community could really use. It's nice amenities, and it's something I'll put the picture up here. Hopefully somebody can share it. Which way? This way. Okay. It's just something we've been talking about for a while. It's nice to see a rendering of it because it really gives us an idea of what we can do in this site. And just something we're talking about. Hopefully we can see it all the way through. So thank you, Mr. Odom. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Vento. Finally, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I first want to start off with giving Fred Lucas and everybody involved with the Plum Soccer a big thank you and just congratulations. Congratulations for pulling off another awesome kickoff classic. This was the 24th year, the first year that I really had the ability to be up there. My kids don't play soccer, so I've never been able to see the tournament in full action. It is just incredible, the amount of volunteers, the amount of effort, and teamwork, and coordination, collaboration that makes it all work. It was really an incredible thing to witness. So hats off to Fred Lucas and everybody else who helped make that event a success. In terms of Borough Haps, I just want to remind everybody that we're continuing to have our Monday market that will run through October 25th. This is from 3 to 7 p.m. at Plum Creek Park. There's 18 vendors currently registered with a different food truck every week. We do have a special announcement that we're having a special one-day event on Monday, September 20th. It is a pop-up craft shop. We will feature a variety of vendors who offer unique products along with our usual farmers markets vendors. Applications are available on our website. There is no fee to participate and space is limited. We're also happy to announce Fall Fest will be held on Saturday, September 25th from noon until 6 p.m. Children activities will be held from 1 to 4 p.m. and include a pumpkin patch, painting, games, craft, and pony rides. The pumpkin patch is limited to the first 500 children who registered. New to this year, we'll also have a drop-off location to support Toys and Tots Stuff-A-Bus. Please consider bringing a new toy to donate to this worthy cause. I also want to make sure I point out that we will have another opportunity for residents to build their own rain barrel at our workshop. This one will be held in council chambers on Thursday, October 14th from 6 to 7 p.m. Space is limited to the first 30 people who register. The cost of the workshop is $35. And that will be it, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. And that will conclude our committee reports. The Planning Commission will not meet in September, and that brings us to our citizen comments on non-agenda items. We did have one individual who signed up, so we'll start with him, Mr. John Fisher. Yes.
Copy of everything I've got.
Okay. Okay, no problem. Thank you, sir. Just state your name and address.
Yeah, John Fisher, 2286 Chaparral Drive, over in the Holiday Park section. I've lived in Plum now for 40 years. I come in today because this is kind of a last-ditch effort to get approval for some work done in front of my house. In late summer last year, a new sewer plate was put in. Sadly, that sewer plate is right center of my driveway. They installed it. I'm not going to go through this whole letter. I'll just.
No problem.
They installed it. I talked to them because I had problems in the past about the curb being too high. The car was bottoming out. They fixed that back many years ago. So when they did this new asphalt work, I worked with the installers. Please make sure you don't put a big bump there. They didn't. Everything worked out. A few weeks later, we got our first heavy rain in the fall. And I quickly noted that the water was coming up onto the driveway. It never did that before. I sent some messages to Public Works, didn't get a response, so I called Public Works supervisor. His voicemail was full, so I ended up calling the admin assistant. Said she would pass it on. I didn't get anybody coming. Of course, later, winter came, and that puddle was freezing on my cement. Just to back up, back in 2017, I also asked the borough to look at that same sewer. Between the driveway and the sewer plate asphalt, I noticed that the asphalt was crumbling. And the reason it was crumbling, later we found out the asphalt was sinking. And the ice was forming, and then the asphalt just started crumbling. There was hardly anything left there. They came out, the borough came out again, and found out that everything underneath was sinking. They actually had to put a steel plate in to keep the asphalt from falling. That said to me, if that ice keeps on forming, both the cement on my driveway and that asphalt's gonna get screwed up again. So I called the borough again, the admin assistant. She would pass it on. No response. I called again. Finally, I got somebody in late, like December or something like that. The admin assistant says, nothing can be done in 2020 now because the asphalt manufacturers have shut down for the season. Wait until spring. I actually called a private contractor, asphalt contractor. He came down and looked at it, says he could fix something up so we don't get that water. Some kind of special asphalt. I don't know what that was. But then I read in the Advanced Leader that you were going to mill and repave Chaparral Drive. So I didn't want to spend all that money when I knew it was going to be dug up. In late July of this year, I started noticing the no parking signs. They were going to start the milling and the repaving. I called the borough, Public Works again, admin assistant, says, who should I talk to make sure something is done to fix this? No response. I called 3 times. Finally, the admin assistant told me, talk to the contractor, they know what to do. So just before the repaving started, I called, I think it's Fiono, I think that's the name of the contracting company. And I got in contact with the supervisor. He came down to my house, he actually came. He looked at everything and he says, the problem is the sewer plate is higher now than my driveway, the new sewer plate. He had a level, put it on there to make it level. The level had to come up onto my cement like 3-4 inches. So he says, that's why it's You know, that's what's happening. The sewer plate's too high. He said the only thing he could do is lift the sewer plate, cut that cement box down so the sewer plate sits lower, and then asphalt around to keep it from coming up. Or lay asphalt on my cement driveway. I called the Public Works, left a message, what the contractor said. I asked if somebody could come down before the asphalt went in to evaluate what's going on again. Nobody came. So the supervisor from Fiona came when they were going to lay the concrete, the asphalt down. And he says, "What do you want me to do?" He could come up on the asphalt, on the concrete, or he could put a curb in, but he says, "I don't know how big that curb should be. If it's too small, the water's going to go over it. If it's too big, the car's going to have a heck of a time getting in and out." So I said, leave it the way it is until I can contact somebody from the borough. The next day, the supervisor came with a engineer, he said, from Plum. It turned out he's a contractor engineer. He wasn't a direct employee of Plum. And he said the only thing, the engineer said, they would not spend the money to lower that sewer plate. So the only solution was to put the asphalt up. Now the supervisor said he would have to make sure the asphalt will stick, cut my cement 1 foot up and then lay the asphalt down. You know, I paid a couple $1,000s for that cement driveway. I said I didn't want to get that cut. That's basically everything that happened there. One of my problems, no one from Plum came down to evaluate that before all that asphalt was, all the milling and all the asphalt was laid. No one showed up until afterwards, and that was a contractor engineer. So I wrote a letter, this letter that I passed out to the mayor and to Mr. Pastor, since he was listed as Public Works Chairman. That afternoon, Mr. Pastor came down. He actually came down the house, took pictures, talked to me, showed him what's going on, said he would work on it. I didn't hear anything until today when I saw him walk in and I talked to him. So this is my last ditch effort. I'd like to get that sewer plate lowered because I never had the problem in 40 years. And here, their only solution is to cut my cement driveway and fill it in with asphalt. And that's everything. I do have videos, since we just had some pretty good rain here lately. I have videos during the rain, and after everything dried up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. But first and foremost, I see you're a retired Navy veteran. Thank you for your service. That's Navy, Mayor, if you didn't hear that. Navy,
Yeah.
right, Navy. So,
Somebody got to drive the ship.
so I'm also ex-Navy, so I always give the mayor a hard time about that since he's a Marine Corps vet, so, but we won't hold that against him. But back to the issue at hand, sir, Mr. Pastor did actually bring this to the attention of the borough staff and council. This is something that we have discussed, and from my understanding, we're looking at potential solutions, and someone will be getting in touch with you relative to what can be done there. I can't promise you that lowering that sewer grate is the best solution just based on what it could potentially do if your car goes back into that from some of the discussions that we had with the borough engineer. But I think it's something that we'll look at and provide an amicable solution.
As of right now, like I said, the supervisor from Fiona asked me what to do, and I told him just leave it the way it was. So there's no curb there right now, and there's no asphalt on the driveway, obviously, right now. So that's the situation right now. my concern is coming here today too is, last year, the reason they said they couldn't do anything is the asphalt companies were shutting down. And I didn't want to wait too late so that the new asphalt was not available.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So that was the only individual who signed up, but that certainly doesn't prevent anyone else who's present from speaking. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for citizen comments on non-agenda items? Yes, sir.
I'm going to apologize. I have beginning of laryngitis, so if I sound like a 12-year-old boy, I apologize. Mike Devine, 160 Valley Fields Drive. You can also find my address on a Facebook post, which is why I'm here to speak tonight. I missed the beginning of the meeting, and Mr. Odom, you did say that you addressed an email between the district. I assume that's the email you're talking about?
Yes, that's correct.
So I did not hear what was said, but I have some things to say tonight. Council members, Harry, Mr. Thomas, good evening, and thank you for listening. From your borough website, I'm going to read your mission statement. The mission of this borough of Plum is to provide exceptional public service and safety. I'll repeat that last word for you, safety, in a manner that exceeds the needs of our residents, visitors, and business. Safety. Mr. Pastor, who I am surprised to see here tonight, organized and distributed a call to action for the residents of this borough to come and protest outside of our homes, the school board members. He did not stop there. He personally listed each of our addresses so that the residents knew where to go. I realize our addresses are not that hard to find. Anyone could have looked them up. However, not just anyone listed them. A member of our council did. A member who is to stand by that mission statement and keep this borough a safe place to be. Some of us have children, just like many of you do. Personally, I have an 8, a 6, and a 3-year-old who live at my house. If people showed up outside of my door, do you think my kids deserve to see and hear whatever would have happened that day? Do you believe they would have been safe? We've seen peaceful protests occur over the last several years. They were anything but peaceful. How can you personally guarantee that things would not have escalated to that level, and that my children would have been safe? Mr. Pastor himself has a child in kindergarten. Many of you have children in elementary school as well. If people wanted to organize and the school board put your addresses on social media for, let's say, Malabar has been closed for far too long, would you feel safe? Like me, you all signed up for the scrutiny, pressure, responsibility, and trust to take care of this borough. Your kids and your wives did not. And you put mine in harm's way. Harry, our mayor, the leader of our police department, their mission statement reads a bit different, but the overarching feeling of safety is still there. Allow me to remind you, the mission of the Plum Boro Police Department is to affirmatively promote, preserve, and provide a feeling of security and safety within our agency's jurisdiction while serving all people with the fairness and respect regardless of their race, sex, ethnicity, religion, political affiliation, or sexual orientation. And there's that word again, safety. Harry, you had an opportunity to denounce his actions and tell him he was wrong. You had an opportunity to even sit back quietly and pretend you didn't see it. What did you actually do? You liked his post. This means that you read it, thought about it, and came to the conclusion that it was the correct and most appropriate response to his disagreement with the actions of the school district. You physically took the time to press a button to show your support. I do realize your kids are now grown, but you do live with your wife, and you have told me on numerous occasions that your grandchildren come to visit. And let me ask you this question. If a group of residents wanted to organize and come to your house because they felt strongly about feeding a feral cat and your grandchildren were there, how would you feel? Would you feel without a doubt they would have been safe? If your answer is yes, that is a lie. Before I'm reminded of that Miss Wetmore had an offensive post on social media last year, I'll stop you right there and remind you that after several residents, including several of you up here, reached out to me to speak to her, I did speak to her. Against her will, she changed the verbiage of her post to not be so direct and offensive. She was also removed from a committee as a repercussion of her actions. And lastly, as board president, I read a statement on behalf of the district denouncing her actions and that they were in no way the thoughts or a clear representation of our district. However, at no time did her post put anyone, especially children, in harm's way. The main reason I'm here tonight is to ask that Mr. Pastor turn in his resignation. Over the past almost 4 years, he has brought nothing of value to this borough. He doesn't even give you the courtesy of keeping his seat warm on most nights that you have a meeting. As an elected official, he should know that the ramifications of his actions could have done. As one myself, I've continuously put my phone number out to everyone on social media, even if it's even in the signature line of my emails. I welcome any and all to call me and speak about anything going on in the district. As a member of council, he has a more direct line to my ear. Every single person up here has my phone number except for Mr. Pastor. He could have gotten it very easily. I urge each of you to join me in asking for his resignation, as this is proof he does not have the wherewithal to make a good, sound decision for the betterment of this borough. There are only 3.5 short months left until the newly elected officials take over his seat, but why wait? Bring someone in now that can get a head start and use the seat for its intended purposes. Thank you. I do appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Vento. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.
I mean, I know there's a lot, and I'm sure you're busy, but I just want to, we had talked about this prior, and now we're